Many of us are terrified of making a mistake. And that's not to say that fearing mistakes or failure is wrong. It makes complete sense. But when we enter situations, we don't always know what's going to happen, and we can't even control the outcome, even if we did. But there are a number of things we can do before, during, or after a mistake or failure. So before going into a situation, check in with yourself and evaluate where you currently are with your belief systems and resources. So first, having a learning or growth mindset. So this means that no matter what happens, I know I can learn from this experience. This one singular experience doesn't define me. Second, the focus is not only on the outcome, but also the process. So here this takes some practice because generally we're more focused on outcomes and on the dichotomy of that outcome. Was it good or was it bad? However, the process often takes much longer, and it actually makes up a larger percentage of the whole experience. So by focusing on aspects related to the process, such as how fair the process was or how did I behave during the process, we can alleviate some of this pressure already. While in a situation, this is even more challenging or difficult. So when we're experiencing this failure, we can actually then draw some inspiration from sports psychology and examine our self-talk. So how do you talk to yourself? Is it constructive? Would you say these same things to a friend or a colleague? For example, do you focus on the negative? For example, I'm anxious or stressed, or do you reframe it then to a positive, that I'm just excited to try something new and to do a good job? So also, while the situation is unfolding, we can kind of zoom out and become the observer and remove ourselves a little bit from the situation. So here we're taking a bird's eye view of the situation and thinking about what would we advise someone in this situation and weigh your options. This can also help us to slow down the automatic thinking process. Now, let's assume that the mistake or failure has already happened. You've survived, you're still standing. What can you do now so that you're ready for the next opportunity? Well, perhaps you know yourself very well by now and have some systems in place. One might be reaching out for social support, even if you don't want to talk about what happened. Just making contact with somebody else can help us to ground ourselves after a surprisingly tough or difficult failure. As you're processing, or perhaps afterwards, you can start looking for meaning in that experience. Maybe it's not just a lesson for you, but it could also become an important story to share with others. There's this great song by a band called AJR called 100 Bad Days. Their lyrics go, 100 bad days make 100 good stories. 100 good stories make me interesting at parties. Well, with a little bit of imagination, you can understand what this lyric is trying to say. And so it's not just about what's meaningful to you, but also taking it as a lesson learned, maybe a cautionary tale to others, or maybe it's simply an absurd story to tell at your next party. By being open about learning to failure, we can learn to soften the impact of the failure and also use these experiences constructively. Maybe not right away, but with some time and some self-reflection, we can turn any experience into a lesson.